dedicated to feeding folks in need, one bag of groceries at a time. And we are also in collaboration with lots of our neighbors to growing as much food locally as possible. Next slide. So who are we? We're Nourish L.A. I started during COVID to help feeding folks in need because I was just hearing of so many people that were going hungry. I'm a mom of a 2-year-old, and I'm part of a lot of different forums. And one of the forums was the LA Moms group. And I was reading post after post of mom asking for food because they did not have enough resources to feed their families. So that's why I acted and started putting these bags of food together for our neighbors. Hunger and its number. So this is really where we get to the root of hunger problem. So according to the Census Bureau and Department of Agriculture, hunger has tripled in the US during COVID. 31% of all the food created gets thrown away before it even gets to consumers, which translates to 133 billion pounds of food with a value of $161 billion. So we have a problem, and that is that people are going hungry. But not only do we have just that problem, we also have a big food waste problem. Next slide. However, we know that the solution is in this exact problem. So what we're doing is we're diverting food that would normally go to waste, go to landfill, and rot and create methane gas and greenhouse gases. However, we're intercepting it and we're getting it to those that need it. So nothing is going to waste. And at the end of our food drive, we're actually diverting all of anything that's gone to waste, even those cracked or mealy apples or cracked watermelons. We're taking all that to local gardens. So we have no food waste at the end of our day. Our numbers since we started. So we started March 15th and we're currently still operating. We've already diverted 300,000 pounds of food from going to landfill, fed over 20,000 people. So those are in numbers of bags that we fed people, including families, have passed out over 65,000 organic seedlings to local community members in their gardens, and been able to divert all of our food scraps to 4 local gardens in the area. And then what you guys can do to help if people are like, oh my gosh, how do we get involved? We have a Sign Up Genius where people can sign up and pick a shift. There's things that are away from the public that you can do that require very little human interaction. You would just come, we'd load up your car with food items and give you a list of people that need deliveries. These are usually elders, people that are at risk, or single parent households. And you would just drop off bags of groceries to folks in need. We also have shifts varying from picking up food in the local area to even being part of our assembly team where we assemble all our bags and boxes of food for families in need. Another way that you can help is start a hub in your area, start a food hub. If you know that there are people going hungry in your area, please do something about it. Reach out to local churches or restaurants or just different people with a proper infrastructure and refrigeration to help get a food hub off the ground. There is plenty of food to be had. There's just not enough people acting and creating the solutions around our food waste. We know that, we can solve multiple problems here, but it takes us working together and doing the work and making sure that it's going to the right places. And so I'm asking people to be brave and to be courageous and to talk to their neighbors and work together to solve these huge problems. And also, just make a plan and then do it. A lot of it you're going to learn as you go along, but this isn't hard at all. It's actually harder to just sit back and watch this narrative unfold. Next slide, please. Another form in action that you could do if that doesn't feel like one of your callings is you can just start a garden Whether you live in a balcony or you have access to a plot of land or you know your neighbors, start a garden. You would be surprised at how many people are willing to open their front and their backyards to their neighbors for it to be farmed and cultivated. All it takes is starting a conversation. There's tons of free resources online. There's permaculture resources. There's YouTube videos, chipdrop.com for free mulch. That's where a local arborist in your neighborhood cut trees, and they need somewhere for all that mulch to go, which is a resource, a free resource, and can help create topsoil for your gardens. And there's also the local buy nothing groups. If you just go on your Facebook search engine, type in buy nothing and your area. So I'm in Culver City, so I'm part of the Buy Nothing Culver City group. And that can help you exchange resources, ask for things you need, and also post things you don't need that somebody else might need. You can ask for anything you can think of, whether it be tomato cages, diapers, food, or you can post things that you no longer need. But that way we're keeping a circular economy and not letting things go to waste. We can actually repurpose and find other people that need the items that we no longer have or no longer need. But it's an awesome resource. We've met a lot of our volunteers through this organization, and we've gotten a lot of items because of these local groups. And it's international, it's worldwide, so it doesn't matter where you live. Every town has its own Buy Nothing group. Also, a second action is, we'll say that you're motivated, but you don't think you could start an actual food hub, but maybe you can collect food. So maybe start a food collection drive where people can, make yourself available for a couple hours and people can drive resources to you, whether it's excess fruit from your trees or from their trees to dry goods from people's restaurants or whatever it may be. Paper bags are in high demand. All these food hubs need paper bags. We're using 100% upcycled paper bags, and people are saving them. And it's awesome that people have a place for them to go to, or else they just get thrown in the trash. So that's also another way that you can be proactive in making sure that people are getting fed and things are not being wasted. But that's just a few of the things. And we can do this thanks to so many of our partners. So I forgot to mention in the slide where we're getting all our food from. So a lot of people are asking, where do you get all this food from? Well, we've partnered up with tons of different organizations. Food Cycle LA, they help go to Sprouts and Trader Joe's and Whole Foods and Bristol Farms, and anything that would possibly get thrown away. Stores are being told to not do that. There's more pressure on them than ever before to not waste any food. So they are all diverting food to these organizations that we are partners with, and they make sure that we get it. And what we do is we clean it up. So if one egg is cracked in the dozen, that whole thing would normally get thrown away. So that means 11 perfectly good eggs are still there. So we just clean that up. We could divert that broken egg to compost and then save those 11 perfectly good eggs and make sure somebody gets those to eat. And it's awesome food. It's beautiful. A lot of it's like organic and top notch, Whole Foods, Bristol Farms foods. There's nothing wrong with it. And then the leftover food stuff that is a little bit past its date, we just divert it to compost. But we do our best to not throw anything away. Not only do we have Food Cycle as one of our partners with Friends of Food Forward, the local food banks, and we just ask all of our neighbors, like, hey, you guys, persimmons and pomegranates are in season. Please don't let them rot. Instead, bring them to our local food hub where they can be shared with our community members. And this is all just community helping community, neighbors helping neighbors. We know that this issue isn't stopping anytime soon. So food is a very basic need. We can't do anything without food. We can't look for a job. We can't look for housing. We can't do anything if we're hungry. So that's why nourishing food has to be first. You cannot even think of what to do next if you are hungry. So we have to address this basic need, which is food and nourishment. And every one of our bags of food has an array of fruits and vegetables, bread, a dessert, flowers, plants, and things that are going to, cultivate nourishment and also increase the likelihood of cooking homemade meals. But for folks that can't create meals because they don't have a kitchen or access to those things, we do have prepackaged salads, wraps, burritos, and things like that. So we do get a lot of those donated as well. But as you can see from the photo, we have like a plethora of all kinds of healthy, good, nourishing food. Let's get growing. So the most important part of what Nourish L.A. is doing is cultivating these gardens and cultivating the mentality of stewardship. So not only do we help feed people, we also hand out plants every week. Sorry, I didn't have time to put that slide in, but every Friday we pass out 10,000 organic seedlings at the Wood Cafe. This week it'll be from 2:30 to 4:30. They're all organic and they're all vegetable and herb seedlings, because we want to encourage more of our neighbors to grow food locally. We're also partnering up with our neighbors to see if they're willing to surrender their front or backyard in exchange for it to be farmed and for us to grow more food locally on site. Because, it's one thing that to give people a bag of groceries, it's a whole nother thing to give people some skills and the desire to want to go back to the roots, back to the land, back to the earth, and back to stewardship. Because I mean, in some ways, the lack of stewardship is what caused all this to begin with. So we really aim to bring people back to, this idea of, cultivating a little piece of land and growing a little bit of their food and sustenance and keeping things as locally as possible. And we also have compost, we're building these compost infrastructures so that people can bring their compost locally and it doesn't have to go to landfill, but it also helps to create soil, which we know is like one of the biggest sinkholes of carbon dioxide. So we want to encourage more of this type of grassroots, local growing, and more local exchange of resources. And this is one of our gardens that we started in a neighbor's backyard. It's a Good Karma Garden #1 of many. And now it's a fully functioning mini farm. It's got tons of different fruits and vegetables. And all this stuff that we found was all repurposed from people's alleyways, the Buy Nothing groups, Craigslist. This stuff would normally end up in landfill. We used a doghouse, an old doghouse for our compost bin. Found a bunch of bamboo. He's got bamboo, so we just reclaimed it for our poles, bricks, and created a spiral garden with a bunch of cinder blocks. So we just want to show what's possible with using waste and keeping things in the system that are already here. There's a lot of potential here. So we want to just encourage this idea of, like, what if we took all our trash and repurposed it for something positive, like growing food? And that's what we're trying to do. And we also have a YouTube video. Can we play that video, Chloe?
Sure. I'm going to play it. Let me know if you can hear the sound. I may have to reshare it. So can you see the video?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Are you able to hear anything?
I can't hear it. Oh, there we go. I can hear
Started from my garage.
Let's try.
There we go.
I started from my garage. I'm part of the LA Moms Forum, and just seeing all the families in need, hearing mom after mom saying, help me, my family doesn't have food to eat.
We could tap into this abundant, never-ending supply of food, and not all of it's being sold, and we're getting to people that are hungry, and there's no shortage of hungry people.
We already knew that people were living paycheck to paycheck, but we didn't know they're like that close. They're one meal away from not having enough to feed their families.
The thing that sustains me right now is doing the food drives, getting the food out of here, seeing the faces of people coming to get the food. You cannot buy that feeling that you get helping somebody who's less fortunate than you are.
It's really mind-blowing when you actually see the excess food waste. Did you know that if one egg is cracked in the dozen, they throw the whole thing away. So we cleaned up all those eggs and we're able to give 50, 60, half dozen egg cartons away.
And by the way, take the extra food that's being thrown in the trash can that's spoiling and use that as fertilizer.
And it's just so cool to see this plant fuel go back to the soil. My ambition is to put so much pressure on all food suppliers to not let any bit of food go to waste. Food should not be wasted. People should not go hungry. But the solution is in this problem. The solution is, okay, feed people, start jobs from it, start these hubs throughout all over the world.
What I'm thinking of doing now is trying to find a way to use our closed restaurants to do more of this. You know, we're using our resources to basically feed people and pay our bills along the way. I think at the end of the day, if you can pay your bills and do something that makes you happy, then what's your problem? Nobody has a problem.
We want to encourage people, you can do this. It's not that hard. We have a new set of volunteers every week and they're stoked and they're happy to help.
It's just like church on Sunday. Everybody comes in here and they're super lifted and super pumped. The one, the Greek lady, she made me a spanakopita. She says, hey, the kale you gave me was so good. I want to say thank you, and so I made you a spanakopita. She paid me back with food. I gave her food and she paid me back with food.
The idea that there isn't enough and like things are scarce is bullshit. Because I see the abundance. And a good karma garden essentially means you show up at somebody's house that's signed up ahead of time to flip their front lawn into a garden. We create a garden that they can sustain. Then they help do the next garden. So that's why it's the good karma garden. If shit hits the fan again and we have another pandemic or an earthquake, we have a food source nearby.
We're going back to where we can grow food and teach people how to grow and support themselves, uplift people along the way. We're kind of doing the old neighborly thing. And right now, the only thing that makes sense is doing these beautiful Nourish L.A. food drives. If we could start something here, maybe that can spread and somebody else can do something. Next thing we have a movement, a real movement.
We want to encourage self-sufficiency and neighborly love. I think that's the way to go. Love your neighbors. Love them. They might need you. They might need you and not even know they need you. And you might need them too.
Okay, thanks, Natalie. Is there anything else you wanted me to share on screen, or am I good to kind of come back in?
Yeah, I think you're good to come back in. I guess I'll just, so that was Demetrius Mavromakoulis. So he's my partner in this. I reached out to him after doing the alleyway food hubs because we needed to expand quickly. After our first hour that we were doing this, we were able to feed 60 families, and everybody was stopping and telling us their stories. You know, they're on their last $100 bills, or they're a massage therapist, and they have no idea how they're going to get access to any resources, or if they even will qualify for unemployment or whatever. And we just knew we had to act. So I reached out to my old boss, Demetrius Mavromakoulis, who I worked for 10 years ago. And I said, hey, what are you doing with your restaurant? And he said, well, actually, I just had to lay off 70 of my employees. So our first official food hub that we did at his restaurant, the Wood Cafe, we fed just his laid off employees. And all the food was gone in an hour, I think less than an hour even. And as time increased, we were able to also increase our resources because he's a restaurant owner. He already had some friends in the restaurant industry and farmer friends. So we just put our heads together and we decided to just, we're going to just, while he has this restaurant, he's sitting on it in refrigeration capacity, and we have all these relationships and people that we know are already going hungry. We're going to just utilize this place to be a food hub. And now, we're going to make this official. We've already applied for a 501c3 status, and we're just waiting for the Secretary of State. And eventually we'll be able to create jobs and create more food hubs and form a whole team. And this is I quit my job to do this full time because it does require me to be focused. And I'm not making any money right now. Thankfully, I still have another side job. I do garden consults all over the city. So I do have a lot of community gardens that I help to start and get off the ground that I get paid for. And my husband is working. So we're okay. We're on the okay side of things, which allows us the opportunity to cultivate this. However, I'm going to need to turn this into a full-time gig where I just give this my 100% because the need is so high and we're solving multiple issues here. Greenhouse gas, a huge contributor is food waste, food hunger, and creating more gardens locally. So, you know, I feel like the time is ripe. And even though COVID has really hurt a lot of people, for some, it has been a great space for cultivating new forms of creativity and innovation. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're taking this opportunity to rise to the occasion and finally meet food hunger where it needs to be met. And that is, you know, we already knew food was going to waste and we already knew there was hungry people. Now there's just more of them and our government doesn't have a solution. So that's where we come in and we say, hey, we've already been doing this for 5 months. We're very good at it. And here's our numbers to prove it. So we're going to keep doing this. We're opening up another hub site in Venice this upcoming Saturday at St. Mark's Church. And they will be operating from 11 to 1. And we hope to feed another 500 people from St. Mark's Church on Saturday. And yeah, you know, hunger isn't stopping anytime soon, but food waste continues. So that's why we have to do this. There's kind of it's a no-brainer. And to sit back and watch this narrative unfold is not wise. You know, we know we can do something about this locally with our grassroots, the way that we've operated it. And we're staying very safe, we're healthy. And as long as we're healthy and okay, then we're gonna keep doing this because yeah, nobody should go hungry and food shouldn't be wasted. It's just very simple. The idea is very, very, very simple. It's not complicated at all. But yeah, I guess I can open the floor up if anybody has any questions they'd like to ask. Please, by all means, ask away.
Anyone wants to unmute? There are only a few of us here, so you're welcome to do that. But I have a question to start us off. So is this like your first rodeo? Like, this is such a cool and amazing initiative that you've started, and it's so powerful, and now you're expanding. It's only been like 5 months. Is this your first time doing something like this, or do you have
No, so my superpower is actually community engagement. I'm really good at being the person that bugs people, and that's like, hey, and I'm really good at asking for exactly what I need. I can hyper focus in on anything, whether it be gardening or food drive or something to support a school. That's kind of been my natural God-given superpower since I can remember. I've worked in nonprofits for the past 10 years, recently with Kiss the Ground and Safe Place for Youth. And I left my job at Safe Place for Youth to do this full time. But now we're opening up a food hub, which is right next door to them. So I get to work with them again. So here's the full loop cycle. And, you know, I guess this goes to just being really transparent in what you're trying to create and being very, having lots of integrity in what you do and making sure that you are keeping your word and, you know, just staying in alignment with the things that you say is really important because all that stuff does come around. And I guess this just goes to show how important it is to stay in, you know, in integrity. When I left, I said, I'm sorry, I love you guys, but I know we'll meet again. And here we are meeting again. And I just had a meeting with them and they're going to be throwing a bunch of resources at us as well. So it all goes and comes around. But nope, this is not my first rodeo. I've done lots of community engagement. Most recently, before COVID, I would put on huge garden parties and hire a private chef and do big farm to table dinners. And this is just kind of my superpower, but I wanted to focus in on a mission that I knew was dear and clear to my heart, which was food insecurity. I've been an urban farmer for 10 years, and food is magic in the sense that it brings everybody together. Everybody needs food, and very, very few people will tell you that they don't like good food. So I love food in the sense that it just brings us all together. It's our biggest commonality is that we all need good food to eat to stay healthy.
Definitely awesome. Thank you for that answer. So let's say we had a student who wanted to start like a regional food hub. What
Yeah.
and does not have quite the superpower, like the community connections that you clearly have because you've been in Culver City for a while, working with the wood and everything. What's that first step that that student should take if they're interested in starting something like what you've done?
I always tell people the first step that you have to cultivate is courage. You have to be willing to put your character and yourself out on the line, no matter how shy you are, because I'm literally asking my community for things that they might have. So I'm constantly speaking, talking to people, reaching out to people, whether it's on Facebook, the Buy Nothing group, whatever. I have to be courageous because without courage, you're going to be stalled, and your courage has a feeling to it and that amplifies. So when you're courageous enough to ask for the things that you need, whether it's asking a church saying, hey, I'm curious, what are you doing with your site right now that you're closed? Is it possible that you might be willing to open it to, reach out to folks that are hungry? You know what I mean? So whether it's writing an email or talking to somebody on the phone or doing one of these webinars, you have to be courageous, and you have to be willing to make a mistake. You can't get anywhere with being fearful of error. You're going to make mistakes. It's very much a part of this process, but you're going to learn as you go along and you're going to grow and hopefully you'll cultivate something. But I just tell anyone, be courageous, write that email, get to know your neighbors, talk to that church, talk to that restaurant owner. Make the incentive to reach out to people because those conversations are meaningful and they could potentially have a really incredible outcome if you foster them.
Awesome. Okay. I want to be mindful of the fact that I know that you have to run today. So those were the two big questions that I wanted to ask you. But the work you're doing is amazing. It's super cool. I actually totally found out about you guys through Instagram, through people sharing about your work. So I'm, hoping that you're cool with me sharing your Instagram. I don't know if you have other things you'd like me to share with students, some other resources. I'm happy to send those out. But yeah, if there's anything in terms of sharing things or anything like that you want people to do, like, please, go ahead and talk about them.
Well, what I just implore everyone to do is just be courageous enough to start something. Some people might be like, oh no, it's COVID. I can't share. I can't. Actually, some of the greatest inventions and innovations are during these crazy times. So I highly recommend you do share and you do engage, because there are people that are waiting for somebody to start that conversation or start those types of projects. And I just implore everybody to share their gifts to the highest of their ability, whatever they may be. It doesn't matter, but we need more people to rise up to this occasion because we're sitting in very ripe territory right now. It's like the ground is literally fertile for us to create the platform of which we want to see. So I just implore everybody to be courageous and to act and to share and to pull resources together so that they can share those talents with the world, because there's people that need their gifts to be shared now, like right now. So make a plan of action and just share. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have to be a food hub. It can be anything, but just don't be afraid to share. We need your gifts, and there's a reason why we're all here.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Natalie. I'm actually going to stop the recording for right now.
Okay.
But if you wanna, I'm going to